Welcome to the Change Within podcast. My name is Gerard Uselli, and we are on episode 40. That is right, 40. And this is just surreal to say the least. There are so many different people that I've had the privilege and opportunity to talk to, and for them to embrace their changes throughout their lives have been such a surreal experience, just to say the least, for myself, and how I'm able to network with those people, building relationships with them, and to see how change can supersede for all of us. And this person right here, my next guest, no exception to the rule, Tom Scotto. Tom, how are you today?
I'm spectacular. Happy to be here, Gerard. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, being a native Staten Islander yourself, I always have this very interesting question that I like to ask, and it's something I love to ask to all of my guests. What was your childhood like growing up?
Honestly, my childhood was awesome. I was very blessed, which I feel like in today's society is getting less and less, to have a stay-at-home mom. I'm one of four kids, so my father worked crazy hours for most of his career at points in time, working more than one James the cop. So sometimes he was a cop working, 60, 70 hours a week and doing mortgages on the side. So he really worked his butt off, to allow my mom to stay home and, raise the kids, which I think, like I said, in today's society, that's just so rare because everything's costs so much money that most of the time both parents have to go to work, which is unfortunate. But yeah, growing up, my mom, what else can I say besides she's an absolute rock star? I mean, she raised us four really great boys. we all turned out good, and we owe it to her. My dad too. My dad at a young age always instilled with me, respect, kindness, do to others as you want done to you. And growing up on Staten Island, listen, a lot of people complain about Staten Island, but I love it here. I mean,
I'm the same way.
I love it. My fiance, she's not too keen on it. But listen, I think the quality of life is great here. I was lucky to, high school was awesome for me. I made a lot of friends. I was, friendly with a lot of people. I ventured out into different, circles and kind of, was just like a social butterfly, so to speak, and just kind of, went with the flow. It also helped that I threw some pretty good house parties back in the day too. So
well, that is something of such notoriety that Staten Island has, because I'm going to say this right now. Yeah. House parties on Staten Island speak a lot of history for people.
Sure. Yeah. My parents, they took over the side apartment when I was around 14. So from 14 on, I had my own entrance. I had my own place downstairs, basically.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was great. It was great. A lot of really good memories, a lot of really good friends, a lot of really good people. And, I love Staten Island. I really do.
Absolutely. So something to kind of steer into the next question a little bit, kind of to relate back a little bit in your family life. So this is a one-off. I'm curious that how was it like kind of knowing money management, like through your family? Was it kind of more instilled from your mother being home all the time, or your father from a distance, especially on the fact that he was working so much, but the sense of respect for yourself as far as how you handle your finances and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think from a young age, I was always, you got to work. If you want something, you want money, you got to work. I was very fortunate that, my dad worked a lot. So we weren't rich, but we were very comfortable. We went on vacations every year. Money was never really a problem. Maybe when I was younger and he was, just getting on as a cop, things were a little tight, but I never noticed. I mean, we could have been poor. I don't think we were, but I didn't notice, my life, I was always, but if I wanted something, I was told you got to work for it. So from 14, that's basically when I started working. My aunt and uncle, they have the Adirondack Hotel, actually, pretty famous.
Oh, wow.
In upstate New York. They've owned it for many years. And I started working there as a busboy when I was 14. That was like my first job. I'd go up there for the summer, work a few months, come home with a couple $1,000s, and it was pretty awesome.
I think that also goes to show, especially in the fact that you were a busboy and I was a busboy for a little bit myself. I think it really showcases the value of what it's like to treat people with respect, to what you were saying from before. Because think of it this way, when you're actually working like the tables and you're just talking to people here and there, accommodating them, it really goes to show the impact that you have as a person on how you are with other people, and that kind of customer experience and relationship skills can really like divvy up somebody at a young age.
Yeah, it definitely helped grow my personality. I was also, I was always around my dad's friends because I was out of my dad's group of friends. He was like one of the first ones to have a kid. So I was always hanging around my dad's group of friends, which were a lot of cops, and there was a lot of different personalities, a lot of different things going on. So because of that situation and because I was working, in the restaurant industry, I really think that's a big part of the personality that I have now, for sure.
Absolutely. So, like, kind of into that point too. So, as you were just working for yourself at that point and understanding the value of working hard and staying vigilant on something, how did finance itself first interest you, and when did you realize you wanted to be involved with it?
So my grandfather, after he was always big into, like, he was a police officer too. Most of my family is cops, a lot of cops in my family. He was a police officer as well, but he was always an investor. He was always messing around with real estate or the stock market, or whatever he thought he could make money on aside from his job. He was doing it. So he kind of introduced me to the whole stock market and investing and things like that. That was my first experience. But believe it or not, Tottenville High School, my senior year of high school, I had a teacher called Mr. Orlowski. John Orlowski is his name. Great guy. He actually had us do a project where we basically picked a stock portfolio, picked a bunch of stocks.
Oh, wow.
And you track them throughout the course of the school year, and then at the end of the year, whoever had the best performing portfolio, you had like another 100 test score, like average into your grade or something like that. I came in second. My friend Tyrone, he beat me out. I think my portfolio went up like 92% or something like that, which is a spectacular return, might I add,
Yeah,
for a
absolutely.
6-7 month period. I think I did a pretty damn good job. But he beat me out. I think his was like 104% or something like that. So kind of from that point on, I really fell in love with like investing in the stock market and things like that. But it probably wasn't until, like, I would say a little into college, maybe like a couple of years into college, where I wanted to do it, for like a career.
Yeah, and kind of like in that transition period of finding the urge to wanting to do that more. So, like, what was it like for you to make your first investment? Do you have like a story of that experience?
I it's funny because I've done so many at this point. It's hard to remember the first one, but I think when I turned 18, I opened up a Scott Trade account.
Oh,
That
wow.
was like the big brokerage platform back. A lot of people were using Scott Trade, and I think I bought AT&T stock because that was like my grandfather's favorite stock, because they've paid a substantial dividend essentially for the last like 30 years. They paid a pretty strong dividend, and he like absolutely loved the stock. So that's like one of the first stocks that I bought. Yeah.
And kind of a curious question on this. Do you feel like in the stock world, with what you
Mhm.
invest in, do you feel like you become the product of what your market shares are? So for example, let's say if you have a Verizon stock, do you feel like if you did have that, you would have like a Verizon service platform or something like that? You feel like it's kind of like embedded in you?
I mean, it really depends on how much you fall in love with the company, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people who own a lot of Tesla shares who probably drive a Tesla, right? Because they believe in the company, they believe in the products. That's usually how people end up investing in a company, right? Is based on something that they use. I always tell like parents, if you want to get your kid into investing and you want your kid to get excited about investing in the stock market, invest in things that they know. Say, hey, I put $100 in this account or $200, and we have Disney shares. We own a portion of Disney. They know Disney. They understand Disney. Or EA Sports, a video game company. So I really think if you're you kind of invest based upon what you're passionate in. You know, unless you're like, you know, doing research on fundamentals of company and charting and stuff like that. But for like the regular investor, you invest in what you know. You know, if you see a lot of Teslas driving around, you'll probably say to yourself, you know, wow, that maybe Tesla's like a good company. Maybe I should put some money in that, you know? And then I think the process just kind of goes on from there, especially if you're making money with it, right? Then you tend to like something a lot more if it's making you money.
Return on
right?
investment that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's how that kind of works out.
Do you feel like you're the go-to guy with your family and friends about budgeting?
I think I am now.
I got you. It's all life experience at this point.
Yeah, it took a while to get there. I mean, I started working in this industry like right out of college. Even when I was in college, I was like cold calling for like an insurance company. But it took like a decade, and I'm finally at the point right now where I think people know that I know what I'm talking about and that I actually know what I'm doing, and I'm a professional, and this is my career, and this is what I do for a living. I think it's finally starting to like gain momentum where people are like, oh yeah, like inside our circle, if you need something, oh yeah, go talk to Tom. Go talk to Tom, you know? And I love that. Like I'm very passionate about what I do. I absolutely adore my job. So when people come to me and they ask me questions, it's like validation that I'm there. I'm where I want to be. I'm doing what I want to do. So
I think there's also a point in showcasing a skill set where people look to you as a positive security blanket for how their questions can be covered, as far as what they're willing to ask you and having their trust in you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because in my industry, unfortunately, there's a million and one ways to screw people over, you know? So I always tell people, be very careful with who you deal with, especially if I'm friendly with them. I don't want them to be a client just so I can make money or anything like that. Cause it's not about that. It's more of, I know I'm going to do what's in your best interest. And I don't know if other people are going to do that. So I really kind of try to tell people like, look, you know me for X amount of years. You know how I am as a person. You know how I do business. You know, I'm going to do everything I can to help you out. I just think it would make more sense to do business with somebody who actually, cares about you. That's just
I mean, they always say as a cliche that honesty is the policy, and what you just said kind of like epitomizes that to say for itself.
Yeah, it's true. I have a saying that I like to say: if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if people trust you, that's when they'll do business with you.
Absolutely. So as a customer, now let's go from the customer's perspective for yourself. Being that you've had so much experience in selling insurance, what's it like to have insurance sold to you, knowing that you have that perspective yourself?
It's funny because I met a woman when I was in my career, like early on in my career. She happened to have an office, kind of near mine, and she was in the same business as me, but she did additional things that I don't do. So I kind of been only dealing with her directly, and she knows what I know, and she knows that, I'm in the same business and I know things. So she kind of, I don't want to say acts accordingly because that's a little too direct, but she knows like what to offer me, what not to offer me, what to talk about, what not to talk about. So I think from that perspective, it's kind of interesting, especially for things like auto insurance, where you can go to a million different people to get auto insurance, right? And I've had auto insurance forever, and I've never used it, but I still have it because I know I need it, right? So
isn't that crazy to think of?
Funny. It really is. It really is, and it sucks from an aspect, because you spent all that money and you're not going to use it. But in another aspect, you're happy you never used it because that means you never crashed, you never got hurt, you never. Granted, I've been in a couple of accidents early on in my driving career.
Yeah, of course.
But never had to use insurance for them. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
There we go. Always a shout out for the parents in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah. Oh, I have another shout out, by the way. Joe Volante. He recommended I come on your show, yes. Our mutual friend. So Shout out to Joe for making the recommendation. Thanks, bud.
Absolutely for Joe on that one. And here's something that's interesting that kind of sets the template for, especially a lot of New Yorkers, as far as how the economy can be an advantage and or disadvantage to them. So I feel like the millennial generation is starting to transcend towards the baby boomers 30 years in advance moving down to Florida. And it's a big incentive for a lot of people to go down there. Do you feel like you'll leave New York at some point in your life, or do you feel like you're a New Yorker at heart always?
It's a good question, and if I had to answer this question 5 years ago, I'd probably say no, I would never leave New York. But lately, mainly due to the housing situation, you just get so much more value. If I go anywhere, it'll probably be Jersey. I'll still be near my family. I'll still be here near close to my job. I have offices in New Jersey, so if I wanted to, I could work out of New Jersey. But just strictly from an aspect, and of course, like I said in the beginning, my fiance is not too crazy about Staten Island. She kind of wants to move to New Jersey. And I just feel like the value that you get for your dollar here, it's just not really there anymore. I mean, I have a lot of friends, most of our friends who are buying houses currently are not buying on Staten Island. I mean, I maybe had like three or four friends who have bought on Staten Island, but most people are going to Jersey just because, I mean, to get anything decent on this island, you're looking at $600,000.
Yeah, I was going to say that myself.
And for $600,000 in Jersey, I mean, you get a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,000 square foot house with a huge backyard and a big front yard. I mean, granted, property taxes are a little bit higher, but I mean, you factor that in. It's just.
What's funny? I almost bought in Jersey a year ago, but it's very interesting because when you kind of like do those comparisons with New York and New Jersey, not to say that like New York is so much like behind, because they're starting to not so much even out, but I feel like it's a tipping scale. Like, let's say you have New Jersey here or something, and then New York like a little down here. I feel like that's the comparative rate.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even get a discount on gas anymore. Gas
Right.
in Jersey is like the same price as it is on Staten Island. Everybody used to go to Jersey to get gas, 50 cents cheaper, 40 cents cheaper. Not anymore. Everything's kind of here now.
That's a really good point, because I remember back in my college days, just the sense of driving to Wawa. I mean, it's kind of counterproductive because you're paying the toll back, but to spend so little on gas comparatively too.
Well, for us at that point, you tried to grab two other friends to get in the car.
There you go.
Do a carpool, pay like $2 to go over the bridge, and then I think you're still net in the positive when you factor in the price difference, from Staten Island.
Graham Stephan will be proud of that frugality.
Yeah, exactly. Every dollar counts, right? So but it's just crazy how much Staten Island has changed. I mean, my parents bought their house for like around $100,000, probably 30,
that's true.
Like 30 years ago. And they could probably sell it for, 600 now. It's crazy how expensive Staten Island has got. Maybe it's because it's the easy it's not an easy city commute, but it's a harder city commute, but you don't have to spend as much. So if you're buying in Brooklyn, I mean, I don't even know if a house under $1 million even exists in Brooklyn anymore, right?
Or at least for the sense of merit and having like an inviting space for other people, including family and friends. Exactly. I think that's the biggest conflict of interest.
100%. I mean, if you want a studio apartment, yeah, sure, you can get one anywhere, but then you're going to have a studio apartment, which is, this big. It
confines your freedom as much as the square feet.
Yeah, exactly. It's just when it comes to bang for your buck, I mean, Staten Island's definitely not what it used to be. So
exactly. But something that, as far as the value of a dollar, especially on the debate of cryptocurrency. So I've watched some videos. I know the views already, but this is to share with the audience nonetheless.
Sure.
Tell me about your views on cryptocurrency and how you think things will change about it in the future.
Cryptocurrency. It's very interesting because I was thinking about it the other day, right? And if I'm talking to like a client and I'm talking about realistic expectations of the performance of their stocks or their mutual funds or whatever the case may be is, I'm talking to them and I'm saying, yeah, if your portfolio does 8, 9, 10%, 11% a year, that's a great return. That's something that you should be proud of, things like that. And I'm saying to myself, like, I'm telling these people that 8, 9, 10, 11% is a good return. And they're going to go home to their 18-year-old kid who bought Dogecoin 5 freaking months ago and made 6,000% on his money, and I'm telling them that 10% is a really good return. So it totally, I don't want to say it destroyed investing, but it destroyed logical investing, right? Because those expectations that I just shared with you at 8, 9, 10, 11% return were great until crypto came around, and you could make an investment in Bitcoin today and it could be up 60% in an hour. So it's amazing how much it has transcended the investing world and how massively popular it is. It's become. If I told somebody 5, 6 years ago, oh, I'm buying Bitcoin, they'd be like, that's a Bitcoin. Who? What's a Bitcoin? Like nobody really. It was there, but not now. I mean,
it's been there, and it's crazy for like 7 years now, Bitcoin.
Yeah. It's all over Reddit. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Instagram. It's just amazing. And I think that my opinion of the crypto world itself is I think there's a place for it in our world. I'm one of those people who do think that the government is going to step in at some point and do something. Right. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're
itself. You're not entirely wrong with that statement.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to make a government crypto, that's going to be easily maneuverable from one party to another, because that's the real problem with crypto right now that I see. The transfer costs from one human to another is just astronomical. It's not anything that you would be able to do on a day-to-day basis. You can't buy an Apple with crypto because the transaction would cost more than what you're paying for the damn Apple, right? So in that aspect, it's useless. It really is. It's convenient because you can transfer money from somebody here to somebody in Zimbabwe, like that. In that aspect, it's easy. But as far as a practicality standpoint, it's not great. I think the real value is blockchain. Blockchain is where the value is. Blockchain is where the money is. That is what I think the value is, because that technology is incredible. It has so many real world usage. Like just an example. So if you buy a house, you have the deed to the house. It's a piece of paper, right? You could lose the piece of paper. People can hack into it. I've saw some scams now where people are pretending to be owners on houses, and they're taking mortgages out on houses, and they're doing credit lines on houses. And then people are going to sell their house, and they're finding out they have all this debt built up into the house they had no idea about. So blockchain can essentially, in layman's terms, it's a really good way to prove something actually exists and it belongs to a certain person. So that deed could essentially be, it's way more complicated than I'm going to make this sound, but that deed can be put on the blockchain, and there will be undoubted, basically proof that Tom Scotto owns this house. And nobody else can say they own this house because blockchain says that Tom Scotto owns this house. Like that's some kind of real world usage that you would be able to do. And then there's the NFT market, which has totally exploded over the last 5-6 months, because people are just looking for value, man. People are looking for anywhere to put their money where they can make some money. The stock market's at an all-time high. A lot of crypto coins are at an all-time high. Pokemon cards are at an all-time. Everything's at an all-time high.
The Logan Paul video recently with his Pokemon thing, the $200,000.
Crazy.
Spending like $200,000 on like the Pokemon cards, and it was just literally trying to see how it could be reinvested. It's just astronomical to me.
It's not. He had a guy on his show. I forget the gentleman's name, but he had $10 million worth of Charizards. $10 million for cards.
Oh, I don't remember his name, but I did see the episode.
You know what I'm talking about? He has the largest collection in the world, like by far. $10 million worth of Pokemon cards. And that's because even NBA, even like rookie cards, LeBron James's rookie card just broke a record. I forget what it sold, millions and millions of dollars it sold for. Everything's just so high. People are looking for anywhere to put their money where they have a decent shot at getting some return on it right now.
I got a fun question for you. So based on what we're just talking about now, as far as the sense of like hobbies and kind of like tapping into what the sense of nostalgia is in those cases, if you had all the money in the world to invest in, what's one thing you would keep collecting to resell?
So, in other words, keep buying it to sell it, or keep buying it to not sell it?
Similar to the Pokemon card thing. So, like, what's one thing you've always loved to maybe collect or want to have more of, and then just
cars, hands down. I am an absolute car fanatic. I watch YouTube videos on cars a lot. Every car I say, it's funny because when I'm driving, like if your spouse is in the passenger seat and they see you doing something like this, they might think you're checking out girls or something, right? So I'm at the point where Nicole, if I'm doing this, she knows I'm just looking at cars that are driving by. So cars, I would. It's going to cost me a lot of money in the future. I see cars being definitely a spending item that I would like to spend a lot of money on.
So speaking of some drive in that case, so I wanted to ask you a final question that I also like asking all my guests. So speaking of drive, because change is inevitable for everybody, what is the biggest change you want to see for yourself?
It's a good question. I think right now I kind of really like the path that I'm going on in my career, my mental health, my physical health, starting to get back into the gym. Got a wedding in August, me and Nicole's wedding. So trying to get in shape for that. What I really want to change is, so I measure success. I don't think success is just, getting rich or having a lot of money or being very successful in your career. I think success is having that stuff and being able to help other people get the same thing. So, I mean, my goal in life, what I would want to change would not be personally myself, but the things I would be able to do for other people. So I want to get to a point in my career where if I see someone, who's younger, who's working at a job they're not happy at, and I think, that there's more there than what this job is giving them, I want to be able to tell them, hey, come work for me. You'll be set for life. Don't worry. I'll teach you how to make money. I'll teach you the business. I'll teach you everything. I'll change. Like, I would be able to change that person's life. That is something that I really, really want to be able to do for people.
Well, based on this and just based on you coming on my platform and me having a platform to give, I hope that change transcends itself for the future. And with that being said, that does conclude the 40th episode of the Change of Him podcast. So for those who want to check us out, who've never had a chance to before yet, please check us out on Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Tom, thank you very much for coming on today, and have a great rest of your night.
Pleasure was all mine. Thanks for having me. You too. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.